No, it's always fun to talk off screen. We do that for everybody that's joining in.
I'm not talking.
Let's hope
I'm
that
trying to find a picture of Walt.
we get some.
You're live now.
We are live. Let's hope we get some viewers. Oh, there's somebody.
We have one.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Probably a relative or something. I don't know.
I could ring this bell when we're going on.
No, don't do that. No.
Stand by.
It'll be like the seance room with Luke at the Haunted Mansion.
So those of you joining us, hello, and you can listen to our disembodied voices.
My voice is not disembodied.
And yes, I do have a big bell hanging beside my door, like a ship's bell.
No, don't do that again. Oh, Lord. Okay, I can't control him.
Well, I got the bell on my desk.
That's my bell. You took it. That's out of the schoolhouse I went to in elementary school.
Sorry.
Yeah. I want my bell back.
So we're going to have fun today, everybody. And, oh, we got all kinds of people joining.
Yay.
Romina, how much time do we have?
It is about 2 more minutes.
It's 3:58. Good afternoon.
I did not know she was here with us today.
She gives me the time. Sorry.
That was good. You can do that at exactly 3 o'clock, or well, it's 4 o'clock your time.
I could, yeah.
For those of you who just heard that, Romina is now back in Orlando, she and her husband, so she's on Eastern time.
You should be using that picture today.
Yeah, except it's up there.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Where's the...
Well, I'm going to step
All right,
into
you
the
sit.
picture and
Sit and talk.
get relaxed.
Tell me when you want me in frame.
We'll slide that back out of the way.
Oh, am I moving closer now?
No, you. Hey, look, it's me and half of Mickey. Hi, Romina. All right, look at that. We're just about on time here, and I can.
You have 1 more minute.
1 more minute. Are we going to hear from Minnie Mouse again?
I will, but she'll say the 4 o'clock time.
Well, I'll confuse. Well, we'll tell everybody. It's 3 here in Chicago. It's 4 there in Orlando.
And
Okay.
in LA, it's 1.
I'll make her talk when you're ready, when we're ready to go.
Yes. And everybody has little hearts floating up on the side of the screen. This was my 5-minute drawing I did earlier.
There, see, we could do that as well.
That's right. All right, are we ready? Hi, everybody. I'm RJ Ogren. Welcome to our Thursday afternoon shows. This is our special 4th of July special.
It's a special.
We're off to a great start. And look, I have the right shirt on. Look at that. And there we go from the bicentennial. Suzanne, if you want to come join me.
I have to come now?
Yes.
Okay.
We won't make you keep standing over there.
Oh, thank you.
And
I'm
you have
not in
to-
the shot,
yes,
though.
You have to get in there.
There we go.
Can you move over?
I
a
can
little?
move over a little.
You have to make it comfortable. So there you go.
Well,
Make sure.
I'm always having to
All
lean
right.
when I'm in
Oh,
it.
well, here, I'll move a little more.
Hi, everybody. Happy 4th.
We can do this.
RJ's allowing me to come today so we can tell you some more about our new book, which is with the editor/publisher right now, getting it ready. And we don't know when it's going to come out, so please stop asking. No, it's supposed to be sometime this fall, but we
Yes.
don't have a date. So
The process is, the great thing is our publisher, Bob McLean
Yeah.
loves Suzanne because she is so good at proofing our work. And of course, she also takes my chapters after I've written them by hand and puts them in and makes me look really intelligent. So
He
thank
just
you.
writes and writes and writes.
And,
and then
so,
I edit it down.
yes,
So it's readable.
and but then of course I proof it. She hands me the chapters as she's putting them in, and then I proof them, and then she goes through the whole thing again before we send it to the publisher. Then we send all the photos that we're going to be. We sent more than would be in the book.
We send like twice as many as what we
'cause,
think he will use.
Yeah,
And
we allow the publisher to pick, and of course we sent the cover, the pictures of the cover for the book, which will be the painting I did for the Thornton family of Main Street and the fireworks at night, and which makes it kind of neat because this is the 4th of July fireworks. And but now what happens is that our publisher will take the book and go through the editing process, but he loves Suzanne because she's so good at it that usually when the books come back for us to check after he checks them, is there only 6 things in the whole book.
And he said, I have some writers that it takes me more than a week to edit because they're so bad. He said they don't know what a sentence is, they don't know what punctuation is, they don't know how to spell.
So it also depends on how many other authored books are in front of ours that are being edited and everything. But once he gets through that process,
it's very quick.
Then it's very quick. Then it goes to print. And
so when we know a date, we will certainly let you all know so that you can go on Amazon or Theme Park Press and order a book.
We are hoping it will be in the fall or late fall at least, so you can buy this book. And
for Christmas.
You can buy all 3 books because this is actually the 3rd book in what has turned out to be a trilogy.
Which we never knew that would happen.
We never knew.
No.
So there you go. And Romina is here with us.
Hello, Romina.
So I'm going to try this again. I try to hold up the phone for you to see her, and all you get is a backflash. There she is.
There she is.
Kind of sideways.
With her Mickey painting above her head there. And that's not an RJ painting, but we're not upset about that.
So I've got the phone sitting on a tripod so we can see Romina, and you should be able to hear her fine.
See, we look better on the phone than we do on here. But
yes.
That's okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm having a drink of water from my patriotic mug I'm drinking out of today. I've had enough coffee today, so now I'm drinking water.
I called.
Yes, can you show it up close? Because I think a lot of people like.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I don't want to blur it here. Wait a minute.
All right.
It's actually from Williamsburg, Virginia. We used to live in Virginia See, I'm getting it out of frame again. And it's the Fife and Drum Corps at Williamsburg.
And mine is the Declaration of Independence. And of course, I was in the play, the musical of 1776, 3 times. The last time with our son, Sean, who played the lead of John Adams. And if you don't know, and it's sad because John Adams is not on here, it's Jefferson and Franklin. Adams was actually the architect of
having a Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, he was the one who pushed it really bad. Anyway. So
anyway, that is a great movie, and if you're bored tonight or you don't like watching fireworks, 1776 is shown every year on Turner Classic Movies if you get that channel on cable, and it is actually a total recreation of what it was like on the stage. And we actually saw it in New York right after it had won the Tony for Best Play, and in 1970.
And when they made the movie, it's the original cast. And the movie, the play was written by a guy who used to be a history teacher, and he went on to write other great movies that have historic content to them. So anyway.
Oh, this is yours. I've got yours.
You can't read mine. So, all right. So this is also your chance to ask questions about the book and everything, and questions about, of course, Suzanne was in character. She was a monorail pilot, which I was for only 3 months before becoming an artist.
And then I was backstage in entertainment in management areas for a while.
Yeah, characters, all kinds of neat things. Yes. And so I think what we'll do is go into, has anybody asked any questions, or?
Are they just all saying?
Well, no, not any questions, but Bill says that he's glad glad the Facebook is working today.
Yes, we
Yes,
are
we
too.
all are. We were worried about that yesterday. I said, "Are you going to have a show tomorrow?" And he went, "I don't know."
It was funny when I did my video. Of course, I didn't know at the moment that it was worldwide failure on everything. And I'm going live, and then everybody's coming out the side of the screen. I'm going, "Somebody answer me!" And of course, all you see was still loading, or just black screen and nothing. And what was funny is, Romina, you were the only one that came up on the feed that actually saw it. So, and then, like, of course, then last night, everything that I'd been posting, it wasn't coming up, was suddenly there. So, anyway.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. Also, Tanya said she loves your goofy shirt.
Oh,
You're wearing,
this,
so you
this,
want to
yeah,
show it
it's
again.
here. It's
Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
from the,
a recreation from the America on Parade float
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that
in
was,
1976,
yes.
which is written about in the book, by the way.
And yes, and we have I'm looking up at it over one of the windows in my studio here. We actually have it's a shield, red, white, blue. It's the Stars and Stripes, and then across it says 1776, 1976, and it actually hung on one of the light poles on Main Street after the bicentennial year in 1976. They took them down, of course, and took them and announced through Disney that they were going to sell them first come, first serve. And of
Well, it
course,
was for employees only.
employees only.
Yeah.
So I made a mad dash in our very fast golf cart to where they had them so I could buy one. And we're very pleased.
And when he brought it home, I said, "Did you steal that?" He's
Yes.
like, "No, trust me, it's okay."
Okay, so we're gonna read the chapters, I think, now.
Do you want me to do mine first?
Yes, I think it
Okay.
would be good because
We'll do
you can tell them
the
what it is.
serious part.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we have two things. Forgive me, I have to put these on, otherwise I can't read very well. We have two things before the book actually begins. One is called To Our Readers, and the other is just a little short note from RJ and me. And I thought this would give you guys an idea of what's going to happen in this book and intrigue you, hopefully, to want to read it. So this says, To Our Readers. This is the third and last volume of our personal tribute to the early days of Walt Disney World. That was,
sorry.
No comments, please. That was a time when, though Walt unexpectedly passed away before it was completed, his dreams became real, thanks to his imaginative team of men and women who shared his visions and wanted to see them brought to a waiting public. We felt so lucky to be a part of that world, and the multitude of knowledge and memories that are ours from having worked with so many of the original Disney Imagineers, artists, and performers will never fade for us. It is our hope that in reading these chapters, you are transported to that simpler time in our universe, when reality took a back seat as you arrived in the Magic Kingdom. The world we share here no longer exists. That's why we felt dedicated to presenting it to those who always ask, what was it like back then? As Walt remarked, imagination and dreams are forever. He was right about that, and this is our way of showing you what he meant. So that explains the theme of the book. And then we have a little note before you start reading. Walt Disney was not just a hero who influenced our lives. He was known throughout the world for his imagination and innovation. Because we were lucky enough to experience Walt's magic as it occurred, we are often asked a variety of questions about his accomplishments and his life. It isn't our vision for this book to create a biography on him. Good ones already exist. Instead, we hope to present his work and words in a way we hope will inspire and inform. To that end, you will see quotes by Walt himself at the start of each chapter. So RJ has asked me to read the first chapter in the book, which is not very long, and the first chapter, with the first quote by Walt, is called Walt's Final Dream. Quote, "There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we can possibly imagine." For those who are not aware, Walt Disney never liked to rest on his laurels. He was always working on new challenges. His weekly TV show was a first for us, as was the Daily Mickey Mouse Club. And Disneyland, opened in 1955, was a theme park, not just an amusement park. It was an idea he had in mind for years before it successfully came to be in Anaheim, California. With his personal announcement on November 15, 1965, from Orlando, Florida, about his Florida project, we were both overjoyed that a new challenge for the Walt Disney Company would be only a 3-hour drive from our Miami home. And a challenge it was. Unknown to us at the time of his public announcement, Walt had been gathering surveys and information for several years to help him select the best place to build. He had decided on Florida because of year-round warm weather and the tourism base. In 1963, he said that Central Florida, with its convenient freeways in the works, combined with being away from the coastal beaches, he didn't want to compete with the beach environment, was where the land must be purchased. To keep his Florida project a secret, his planning committee of 2 trusted innovators on his team were the only ones, besides Walt, of course, with keys to the room where the plans were kept. Walt wanted to make sure that his dream of a vacation destination like no other, combining entertainment and recreation for the entire family, would be large enough to accommodate a never-ending wealth of ideas. That would mean acquiring a huge tract of land. We always find the fun part of this story to be just how he managed to buy over 27,400 acres, covering parts of 2 Florida counties just outside Orlando, for only about $5 million. Disney execs, using assumed names, contacted local realtors. They were stating they were looking for a large parcel of land for recreational purposes. Their secrecy allowed them to secure a few large properties and nearly 50 smaller ones. Walt, of course, stayed away from Florida while all this was being finalized, but he had flown over the area and thought it perfect for their needs. Naturally, the media became suspicious of just why all this land was being acquired and by whom, and there was plenty of speculation in papers and on TV. Once the news was official, it was also made public how Walt wanted the specifics of the land agreed to by Florida legislators. A municipality named the Reedy Creek Improvement District would function with rights to operate as its own government, with its own police and fire departments, utilities, taxing, building, and environmental codes. Nothing like it had ever been proposed for the state. The impact on Florida for this venture was tremendous, and his ideas were approved. As all this was taking shape, we were already planning for the grand opening, and we hoped to repeat our experience of seeing Walt himself greeting guests in his new park. We'd had that pleasure in 1965 at Disneyland. Little did we know that less than a year later, he would undergo surgery for removal of a cancerous lung. He pushed on, continued to oversee his many studio projects and the continuing details in Florida. No one who worked for him realized the gravity of the situation. Our dear friend Mark Davis, one of Walt's favorite animators, shared with us his own realization that Walt was dying. He said that Walt came to his office to chat one afternoon, and when he left, Mark stood at the door and watched him walk down the hall. Walt turned around and said, "Goodbye, Mark." He'd never said that to Mark before. He always said, "See you later." It was the last time Mark would see him alive. On November 30th, 1966, Walt became weaker and returned to the hospital. His 65th birthday on December 5th went by without being observed because of his condition. But on December 14th, he rallied, giving his wife and daughter hugs and reasons to think positive. His brother Roy visited him that evening. The two talked business, and Walt used the tiles on the ceiling of his hospital room as a map to describe his ideas for the layout of the new theme park. At 9:30 the following morning, Walt passed away. Later that day, we heard about it on the television news and wept. The more publicity that emerged only increased our grief.
His death was nearly impossible for us to grasp. He was too young. He had decades of creativity to share that were now silenced. Tribute after tribute came over the airwaves and in print publications. The one that moved us the most was a drawing by an editorial cartoonist at the Miami Herald newspaper. It pictured many of the Disney characters, with Bambi at the forefront. All of them were shedding tears. Even today, when we think of that image, it causes us to choke up. We had lost the voice of a major impact on our lives, and it was just too hard to accept the truth. And we even wondered if this meant the end of his Florida dream, his last unfinished dream. We weren't the only ones with that thought. We learned later that there were also executives of the Disney company, as well as media people who spoke about or predicted the end of the Florida project. But a week after his brother's death, Roy gathered the principals and creative people of the Disney company and said, "We're going to finish this park, and we're going to do it just the way Walt wanted it. Don't you ever forget it. I want every one of you to do exactly what you were going to do when Walt was alive." So that kind of introduces you to what you're going to read about and how things evolved and how it was built. And then it goes into what everybody always asks is, what was it like back then? I describe every single area of the Magic Kingdom and other areas that were created after that, Epcot, etc., in a way to help people that never got to see a lot of that, but to also do it in a way that makes you appreciate the genius that was Walt Disney.
Very good, dear.
Oh, thank you. I'm done now.
So,
Did we put everybody to sleep there? Or
oh, you kidding? No, that was
Okay.
that was wonderful.
I'm sorry I got choked up. That I did that when I was writing it. Actually, I had to stop, and because it really was a blow to us. It was, our dream was to work for Walt, which we still felt we did. We used to say we worked for Mickey.
Oh yeah. Well, the
But-
thing was that when everybody that we did get to work for back then, all the executives, all the a lot of supervisors, others, all had come from Disneyland
Mm-hmm.
and from the studios. They were not new hires from outside of Disney.
Just us.
It was just us. No, I mean, all your people had worked their way up in the company. That's how it used to be at Disney. You
Mhm.
just didn't get to walk in the door and get hired as a supervisor or a manager.
Well, they still do that to an extent.
Well,
just not
but-
like they did back then.
But anyway, everybody that we worked for had worked with Walt. They knew Walt personally.
And
had
part
great
of this
stories.
book, we use their stories they told us and included them in the book
Yeah.
itself. So
Yeah. So yeah, the many times I was with Mark Davis or other people, I was always asking questions about Walt, and they just had great stories to tell all the time.
Mhm.
Wathel Rogers, and of course Leota Toombs. So
And of course, the man who ended up, well, two men that ended up the president and vice president of the Disney parks, which was Dick Nunes and Bob Matheson, both had started out at Disneyland as ride operators on the Jungle Cruise. So they had done everything all the way up to the top. And because I got to work with them on a regular basis, I had great stories from them as well.
Yeah.
So it was, like he said, it was coming from everywhere, from the studio, from people that had worked with him for years and years. And
yeah.
so,
And Suzanne was working over Main Street for a long time, and in the offices where all these people were constantly. Actually, when the four of us artists, this is in the first book, when we were brought in by Bob Matheson and Sully Sullivan to pull a great practical joke on Bob Evans,
no, Bob Allen.
Allen, I mean Bob Allen. Bob Allen,
We know about Evans. Wrong guy.
who had to have quadruple heart bypass. Well, back then, when you had that, you were kept out of working or anything for 3 or 4 months because the recovery time just took longer and everything. But anyway, they wanted to look like he had never been there for like 30 or 40 years. So we trashed his office and cobwebbed it and dusted it, and put a skeleton in there, had a lot of fun. But they were part of that too. So it was some pretty amazing times.
But the funny part of that story was Bob Allen was very particular about his office. He didn't allow people to bring food into the office or any drinks, nothing.
No.
And so they spilled coffee on his coffee table.
Yeah, just
But he thought it was pretty funny.
yes. And so
And
the picture that's in the first book, Together in a Dream, actually was
shows a
taken
picture
by
of
the
the
Disney
office.
photographer. Bob
Yeah.
had gone down. He actually, after he looked in his room, backed out, closed the door, and then didn't smile or nothing. He just walked back to the elevator and got on the elevator. Everybody went, "Oh my God, we're all fired." And he came back 2 hours later. He went down to the
Well,
cafeteria.
he was telling everybody.
And telling everybody about it, and then he went and got the company photographer to take a picture, and then they gave the four of us artists a copy. But it was golden times working with these people,
And because the park was just the Magic Kingdom, that was the only theme park there was at that point. And 2 hotels. That was it. That was Disney World. Okay. It was really like a Disney family at that time because there still were members of the Disney family who were on the board and people that had just known Walt like a relative. It was very, very, it was hard, I guess, to kind of grow up as it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And a lot of those people left or retired or for whatever reason weren't around anymore. And
we knew it was a special time working there, but we never realized just how special, because you still had Walt's influence. So everybody was doing things then.
well, you heard the expression, Walt
70s.
would never do it that way a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the 70s and early 80s, it was as if Walt was still there.
Mm-hmm.
So it made a big difference. Anybody ask any questions? I'm going to read my chapter.
His is
Well,
funny.
before you start, Bill says that he says my great aunt Marjorie was the secretary for Peter Stone during the writing of the musical 1776.
Oh my God.
Oh, I hate you. That's just that connection. That
I
is
would love to have been in that
incredible.
room while he was
And
doing that.
Wow, secretary for Peter Stone. What a great writer. And that's what. And please, 1776, the musical. If you haven't seen it, go rent the movie. Buy it. You
Watch
will
it on
certainly
Turner
enjoy it,
Classic.
and
Yeah.
it is correct. In fact, one of the interesting things. That's what really got me turned on again to history, because we saw this in 1970 in New York. I was still in college at the University of Miami, and we actually were trying to see Hair, and we couldn't get in, so we walked across the street, and there was 1776. I said, well, let's go see that. Yeah. And it won 7 Tonys, and is phenomenal. But one of the interesting things we found out is that they'll say things in the movie or in the play, and they're very funny. They were very humorous people. And
Benjamin Franklin was very bawdy.
But also at times you go, wow, I wonder if they really said that. Well, they did.
Yeah.
They got all this from Peter Stone, got all this from letters and writings and everything else. But he also had all these things that he couldn't put in. He said, I couldn't put them in because people would say, nobody's ever going to believe that they actually said that, because they said things that actually then came true.
You're talking about Jefferson's quote?
Like 50, 100 years later. Yeah.
Well, there was a slavery clause abolishing slavery in the original Declaration, and it had to be cut out. And Jefferson rebelled against it because he had written it and didn't want to take it out. And he actually said, if we do this 100 years from now, all Americans will be angry.
Yeah, they'll never forgive us.
They'll never forgive us. And if you put that in a play, they'd go, oh, come on, that's impossible. So they cut the line.
About 70 years later, we had the Civil War. So
yeah.
Well, anyway, so anybody else?
Well, no questions, but let me read a few comments.
Okay.
Gail says, I can't wait to read the new book.
Oh.
And Cherie says, this is great.
Oh, thank you.
And she also says, thank you for sharing a glimpse of your book. And Tina says, hi, guys. So
Hi.
Hi.
Well, now I'm going
Thank you. I don't know if RJ said it or if I said it. That's mine. This is yours. I read that already. Give me that. The title of the book is taken from the Walt quote,
Yeah.
imagination and dreams are forever, because we believe that, you know. The original idea for the book, talking to our editor, and this is like 3 years ago, that's how long it took to get this on paper, was that we would compare what Disney was like when we were there with today. And RJ and I had difficulty with that because we've never done negative writing in these books. We didn't see that that was the right thing to do, to revere Walt's legacy and then complain about what it is, you know. There's always going to be things you're not going to like. Some people will like rides, some people won't like rides, you know. So we didn't want to do that. And it went through 3 different ideas, didn't it, before we found this quote of Walt's. And I went, well, there it is. We can do the theme of Walt and make people see that didn't experience Walt when he was alive what his genius was, because the imagination and the dreams are still there for anybody that goes there. If they have that kind of crazy life like we envisioned ourselves doing and still do, that's what you do. You know, you make them happen. If it's what you want, you make it happen. So anyway.
Okay. Well,
that
now
was long-winded, wasn't it?
No. now we're going to go totally sideways, because my chapters do. Because there's always at least what I think are funny things happening. And for those of you who have not read the first 2 books or aren't familiar with us, again, I was very lucky to become one of the 4 original audio animatronic artists of Walt Disney World, with our studio behind the attraction of It's a Small World.
It's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore. Anyway, we were a crazy group of 4 artists, and we pulled a lot of practical jokes. We had a lot of funny things happen all the time.
Can I interject and say, you would come home at night and tell me your stories, and I would say, do you guys ever work? Or are you just playing jokes on each other all the time?
It was we did a lot of work, and
yes, you did.
We always thought it was funny that even in the early 80s, after I left, and then Lee left, and of course Tom and Jane went on to other areas working, but that the new artists that took our place, there were 7 of them doing what 4 of us had done, and we're going like, what
are they doing?
What are you, working slower? I mean, so anyway, okay. This is chapter 16. I'm going to read. So obviously, it's not even quite halfway into the book.
No, it's just about halfway.
All right. And the Disney quote that Suzanne.
No, you have to read the title first.
Oh, yes, I do. Chapter 16. I had to have him put down.
That is the title. Try not to get upset. He doesn't kill anything. Go ahead.
And Walt's quote is, whenever I go on a ride, I'm always thinking of what's wrong with the thing and how it can be improved. Okay. I have to say RJ?
No, I'm kidding. We have a disclaimer at the beginning that if a chapter is written by one or the other of us, rather than both of us, it has our name at the beginning, so you're not confused as to who's talking.
Yes.
Not that would be confusing with this story.
We should have just had one chapter that just said, instead of RJ or Suzanne, it said somebody else, and let you try to figure out who that wrote it.
Just read.
I'm sorry. Okay. This is our life at home all the time.
Yes, it is. We could bring the dog in here, then we would really have a mess.
Yes.
Okay.
I sat on the large, smooth stones with my legs dangling over the edge. The water below moved slowly past as I sang a tune, with a dog, a donkey, and 3 pirates. Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. Not too many people get to sit down in an attraction scene and enjoy the moment. It was early in the morning. The Magic Kingdom would open in about 45 minutes. I was going through the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction to check the figures and sets. All the figures were already moving and singing their song over and over and over. And well, it was a good thing I liked the song. On a whim, I stood up beside the pirates, put my arms around the closest one, and started harmonizing with them. Cute, a voice behind me said. Ah! I reacted, jumping and almost slipped off the ledge and into the water. I turned to see Lee, standing by the donkey in the barn, only a foot or two from me. He had a big grin on his face. Damn, Lee, I said, you almost made me fall in the water. That's what I was aiming for, he said. Would have been number 4. He was referring to the three previous times he caused me to go into the water in this attraction. So, he asked, done singing? For now, I replied dryly. Good, because that was really bad. He gestured toward the front of the attraction as he changed the subject. So I checked the other scenes. Looks good. Everything okay back here? Yes, I said. This was the last scene I was checking. And page. I said, the pirates are all good. I had to rough up the dog's fur as usual. The costume and wig departments were good at their jobs, but we could never get them to stop brushing the fur of the animals to make them look perfect. Our repeated explanations to them that the creatures all needed to look like animals who never got brushed continued to fall on deaf ears. We, the artists, were the ones who sewed the animal furs and attached them to the fiberglass shells that formed the figures. We also had to attach the fur cloth to the flexible face skins and or paws, using heated tips to melt the skin and press the fur to it. I reached up beside Lee and roughed up some of the fur cloth on the donkey. And now this donkey looks terrible. I had just noticed a 4-inch tear in the left corner of the animal's mouth. Crap. Lee smiled. Well, see? He gestured toward the donkey. You should have been fixing this ass instead of making an ass of yourself with the singing. My turn to say, cute. Have at it, he turned to leave. See you back at the studio. I pulled out my heating element and plugged it into a nearby outlet. I examined the tear while the element heated up. This was a long tear caused by the constant braying the audio-animatronic figure did while opening and closing its mouth. The skins on human and animal figures throughout the Magic Kingdom held up pretty well, but eventually they would split or tear from constant movement. I inserted the flat tip, almost like a very short butter knife, into the tear, starting at the farthest point from the mouth. Just as the skin began to melt, I pinched the two halves together. I worked my way forward to the corner of the mouth, all sealed. What remained along the pinched and rejoined skin was excess pieces of skin, and this created the hard part, trimming and smoothing the skin before painting it. I was almost done when, oh no, too much heat. The skin suddenly bulged out in a 1-inch diameter circle right at the corner of the mouth, almost impossible to fix. I spent the next half hour trying to correct my mistake. I had to use some extra scrap skin from my bag, but the more I messed with it, the worse it looked. I hadn't screwed up a skin like this in a long time. Lee and Tom were definitely going to kid me about it. Maybe I should just hang out with you in the barn for the rest of the day, I said to the donkey as I painted its skin. It now looked like the donkey had a horrible scar on his lip. Or I could just hang out with you guys and sing the same song 1,000 times. I looked toward the 3 pirates. Nothing. Thanks, guys, I said as I put my supplies into my bag. And here I thought we had made a good team. Stupid ass, I mumbled as I headed for the exit. I would have the figure pulled after the park closed. Animatronic maintenance would check everything and then put the figure in our studio where I could apply a new skin and paint it. I walked into our studio and headed for my desk. As I put my bag down, Lee asked, how did it go with the donkey? I had a sour look on my face as I answered, I had to have him put down. There was a pause. Then as it dawned on me just what I had said, all 4 of us laughed together.
That was his life at Disney World.
Happened every day. So there are chapters back and forth of Suzanne talking about these areas of the park as she goes through it, and mine are interspersed with attractions of things that happen like this in and attractions in those areas of the park. So
Well, we also include our family a lot more in our stories in this one than we have in others, because for those who have read our other books, you know that our kids grew up and both worked there as well. Our daughter for almost 8 years until her first son was born.
she was at Epcot.
She was at Epcot, and our son Sean worked there in the summers while he was going to college. At summers and holidays, he worked as a tour guide on the backstage studio tour at Disney Studios, which doesn't exist anymore. Well, Disney Studios does, but I do make a comment, by the way, when I start talking about the Disney Studios, which opened not that long before I stopped working there. We left in '94. But it is a truism, and it's not it wasn't written as a negative remark. It just was factual, which was Disney MGM Studios when it opened. And that's all explained as to why it was that. And now it's Disney Hollywood Studios, but that is the only theme park on Walt Disney World property where there is no longer a single attraction in it that was there when it opened in 1989. So read about all kinds of new stuff that you know about that's there or is going to be there. But this was my way of showing you what was there at the beginning. Even shops that aren't there anymore. But I did that, but I also wanted to include our kids when they were real young in some of the stories, and my parents who came to Disney almost as much as we did, and just things that we did as a family, as a part of what the park was back then, and what the kids were interested in when they were little, and things that happened to them as they grew up. And
How
And then
it only cost $6 to get in the park when
Yes.
it's open,
and 50 cents to park your car.
and 50 cents
Yes.
to park your car.
But anyway, so there's lots of fun stuff going all over the place with us as far as our memories of Disney from its beginnings until the mid 90s. And then we leave it to everyone's, their own imagination and dreams, that they go now and see what's there now. And we do have people that say, why did they take that out? That would have been cool. Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask the people in charge why they did that. I know what some of the reasons were, and we don't put them in the book because that's not what the book is about.
I like to tell people now when somebody says, oh, I think they should replace that attraction. And of course, we just went through a whole thing this past week. Everybody was getting upset, and we were too, that they were talking about taking out Country Bear Jamboree, which was there when
The park
opened. And of course, they did close it at Disneyland. And actually, Country Bear Jamboree was at Disney World first.
And that was the only time that had happened up to that point. There had never been one that was open at Disney World before it was at Disneyland.
Yeah, and there are three, at Disney World, there are three iconic rides that should never be touched. And one is Country Bear, the other is Tiki Room, and the other is Carousel of Progress. Now, we know Carousel of Progress is going to stay, and they're going to update the last scene, which is way past due. Because they were at the World's Fair.
Well, not the
Country Bears. The Tiki Room was.
Just Carousel of Progress.
Yeah. But anyway, I like to say to people, I says, well, think about it. You like the new attraction that's some new attraction that's there now because you've grown up with it or whatever, or there's something new coming in. You're all excited. About 20 years from now, Disney's going to say, we're going to take that out. You're going to get upset.
Yeah,
because it was your favorite thing. So
but that's not what upsets us when they talk about taking something out. It's part of the legacy of Walt. Actually, the Country Bear Jamboree was pretty much designed by Mark Davis, our friend and fellow Imagineer and animator. And he and Walt had discussed all the conceptual drawings and everything before Walt passed away. And that was the conversation they were having on that last day that Mark saw him. So there's so much history there. It's same thing with the Tiki Room. There's talk that it's going to be taken out. And I disagree with that simply on the basis that it was the very first audio animatronic attraction. Very basic. It's birds and singing tiki gods. But it was Walt's. He was so excited about that being put into the park in the 60s at Disneyland. because it was new. It was an innovation. And I wish there was a place where people could learn, I guess. Walt never liked the word educate. He wanted to entertain and have you be educated without thinking about it. But there are so many people now who don't know this history, and it's one of the reasons we wanted to write the book. But also, I think it needs to be known, and there should be some way somewhere in the park where they could find out about all these rides, and whether they're there or not, they could know why they were there and what Walt's concept for all of this was.
Yeah, we're not against new rides.
Well, no, I mean, you can't keep people coming back if you don't have new things for them to do.
Give you all a thought. There's, what, 27,400 acres? It's the size of Manhattan. There's a lot of room. Why do they keep taking out an attraction and sticking a new one in it?
Build another
when they
park.
can just build further out? And people say, well, there's a railroad. Well, you can build a tunnel that people walk under
the
or
railroad.
you go over into another
You
section
do it
of the
going
park.
into Main Street.
And build a park that's all about the superheroes, just a totally new park. They've got the room, but the Disney right now at Disney World, it seems to be just locked into this thing as everything has to stay in that confined space. And that's what Walt didn't want. He wanted things to be able to expand outward. That's why he wanted all of that property. That was the reason, because he built
He didn't
Disneyland.
have that at Disneyland
He
in
was
Anaheim.
very confined, and he would have been thrilled as years went by and they were able to buy more land around and get rid of the neighborhood, the seedy motels and stuff, and expand the park there. But that's why he wanted Disney World to be so big, and yet still have natural areas of the swamps and everything else for the
Well, there
real
are
animals.
over 5,000 acres that were set aside at the beginning as a conservation area that will never be touched. That was Walt's.
So that's not a negative thing. We're all for new stuff. Just
we like some
stop
new stuff.
taking out iconic things that are there and putting something else in it. Build a new one.
Well, anyway, show them what you were going to show them 5 minutes
Does anybody
ago.
have a question or anything? I'm going to show you this.
Well, yeah, there's some questions and comments.
Okay.
I think Cherie wasn't online when you explained about your new book with the availability of when to purchase your new book.
Yes.
And also, Gail is saying, I missed the backstage tour. It was one of our favorites.
My son misses it too.
It was so good.
It was a great tour, and actually in the second book, it's described in detail because our son Sean worked there, like I said.
The original concept of it.
And we went into every single element of that tour. So I didn't do that in the new book, but I did explain what it was and that you could go back into Remembering the Magic and read about it. And I thought it was the best thing they had there. I really did.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Because the whole idea, which was done with Marty Sklar, one of the Disney legends of all time who passed away a year or so ago. It was his idea of the park was that it would not only allow people to enjoy the movies, things like the Great Movie Ride, which is no longer there, and show people how the movies were made, like the Indiana Jones Spectacular and this tour. And our son was very upset because they kept changing it.
He'd come back
in the
each
3
summer.
years that he worked there.
Yeah, and that was
and
different.
They kept making it shorter, and he's like, okay, this is making me nuts. They're going to get rid of this thing if they don't.
So it's fun to read in the second book because it gives you the whole process of how it was originally.
Yeah.
And Sean, which did the walking part of the tour, backstage tour, so he would take up to 100 people at a time through the whole backstage process, the special effects and everything else,
costumes,
and the editing room, and he loved it. And then the next year when he came back, they says, well, we've made it shorter and you can just hand off the people to another person now and stuff. And they took the fun out of it.
It's not fun anymore. I'm not having fun.
So
anyway, so you showed them that. Wait a minute. To answer the question about the book, we hope will be out no later than October of this year. And when we have a publishing date, we will certainly let you all know.
Yes. I've got to do new ads for our books, and especially
We don't
when that
have
one
a
comes
cover
out.
yet for the new one.
This
Let
of
me,
course.
before you
Oh.
explain, we have somebody from UK that's watching.
Oh, hi.
which
Hi
is,
there. We love the UK.
Our favorite other home.
Yes. We were watching Midsummer Murder last night. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
which a lot of them were filmed in Amersham, which is where we
And
stayed.
Beaconsfield.
In Beaconsfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry. She has a question. He, she, whatever.
Let me see. They're mostly comments. The $6 fee to go into the parks, how things have changed. Christine says hi. Also, she says open up Fifth Park, for space because they keep building, hotels.
Yes,
They keep
yeah.
spending that above
Yeah.
the park.
They need a place to put more people.
Yeah. And that's what Gail said. Stop building new resorts and expand the park.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She also says they need new people that think outside the box.
Yes.
Oh gosh, yes.
The
Yeah.
the Imagineers, the great Imagineers are all gone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're the new people that have come in were not people that worked their way up in the company. They're people that were just brought in, and they're the ones, and they're sadly farming out a lot of this now to outside businesses. And that's why you're getting all this types of things that tend to be fractured, and attractions being replaced inside the park instead of them doing a whole new park. And they can't seem to get the layouts figured out when the plan is there with the Magic Kingdom and Disneyland.
We
That's
have a
the
horrible
perfect
nightmare
layout.
that to go with the people that we agree with that keep saying stop building new resorts is that eventually the number of people that are going to be in those resorts are going to fill up all the parks every day, and they will have to close Disney World to the public.
That's
That
what we're
is
afraid of.
the nightmare that I have, that they're going to
Yeah.
go too far.
So hopefully everybody write letters. Say,
Yes.
build a new park.
Yes.
Let's put all those other things in. Now I've shown us a couple. What did she have any other questions before I?
I don't have. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Question.
All right. And I've showed this. Actually, this was look at this Disneyland records
That's
up
a
here.
vinyl record, people, for
Yeah.
those that don't know what they look like.
And this is the entire Country Bear Jamboree show,
Yeah.
which of course I got to work on a lot. It was one of my favorites.
And I worked in there too at the end of my Disney career.
Yeah, she was the host there.
Not very often,
And
but
but
sometimes.
yes, and I worked on all the bears, all the figures, 41 of them, I believe. And this is neat because inside here, it gives a little story
each of the bears.
on how they became what they are and everything else. And so they're funny little things. So
But the reason he's showing you that is because there was a rumor last week that this show was going to be eliminated, and they were going to put something else in there. I won't tell you what it was because it was silly. But they got so much backlash from people. I mean, like thousands of comments over social media and everywhere else, that they backtracked and went, no, it's not true. We're not going to take it out. It's going to stay. Which is sad because it's already gone at Disneyland, has been for several years.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was at our park first.
Oh, the uproar in 1979 when they decided to take out the Mickey Mouse Review.
Yeah.
Which of course I talk about in our very first book, Together in a Dream, and again in Remembering the Magic of working on those figures and stuff. And
I described that entire show in the new book.
And because Japan wanted it Tokyo Disneyland, rather than build all new figures and just do the new show for them, they ripped it out of Walt Disney World.
And one of the people that was the maddest was Bob Matheson, who was the vice president of Magic Kingdom.
Yes, everybody that worked at Disney World, everybody, all the guests, the backlash was tremendous, but then it was too late. It was gone. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, because it was a cool show.
Yeah, it was fun to work on. So
I have a question though.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Which one? which of the bears of Country Bear Jamboree was your favorite to work on, and which one was the most challenging to work on?
I know what you're going to say is your favorite.
Big
It's up
Al.
there. Big Al.
Big Al was my
Yeah.
favorite. I think that.
And it's funny because his step grandfather's name was Al, and one of the things he wanted more than anything was the ceramic figure they used to sell of Big Al. So RJ got him one, and he had it sitting on his breakfast table, didn't he?
Yeah.
He loved that thing. But
the most challenging. That's a good question. I'm kind of looking here, going like,
it
which was the
wasn't
most
the
challenging?
little guy, was it? No, it was her.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
right.
she was up
yeah,
in the
Trixie.
ceiling.
Trixie. When we did, anytime we had to do anything to Trixie, and she's on that swing,
She comes down out of the
you
ceiling.
actually could not work on her up in the place she went to, up in the ceiling. So they had to bring her down, and she was still about
She
10,
was 10 or
12 feet off the floor.
Yeah.
And we had to get a ladder and go up on a ladder.
Well, and you said you had to
Work
carry
on-
paint up and down because you
Well,
couldn't
you
have
had to put a
everything
new.
you
We had to
needed.
put a when we rehabbed the show one year. We put new fur cloths on all the animals. Of
got
course,
new
new
costumes.
skins. We painted the skins, everything. And so to work on Trixie, we had to go up on the ladder. And at one point, we had two ladders. It was Jane who sewed the new costume for Trixie. In fact, when we did it, she worked on Trixie more than any other figure. And so poor Jane had to be up on that ladder all the time.
Can I tell a story on you about that attraction, though?
Oh,
You and Mark?
sure.
Okay.
Okay.
He has a story about him and Mark in the Country Bears, but that's not the one I'm talking about. My husband was not there very long, and they did a rehab on the Bears.
4 years. Yeah. Anyway.
No, I mean, this was when you had not been there very
Oh,
long.
I had not been there very. Oh, yeah. Right.
And he was so proud of the fact that they had some damage due to maintenance concerns with the actual piano that one of the Bears played. And so it had to be redone, and RJ could not match the paint color on the piano. So he got real creative and just painted the entire piano. And he was so proud of it. And Mark Davis happened to come and visit just as they were finishing the rehab, and he wanted to check everything out. And he goes, and he's going, "Oh, looks good. That's good." And then he looks at the piano and goes, "Who painted the piano?" And RJ very proudly said, "I did." It's the wrong color. And he looked at him and he went, "How do you know that?"
I mean, it was so close. The other artists didn't catch it. They came back from their break, and I couldn't match so I painted the whole piano real fast. So, yes, Mark.
But that was
had
the
an
kind of
incredible
out of the
eye.
box people we were working with back then. And
Mark laughed. He thought it was funny. He says, "You do know you're going to have to repaint it." I went, "Yeah, I do now." Which meant I had to take all the corn stalks off of it again.
Well, it was challenging for you to do the heads on the walls too, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had to get up on the ladder for those.
Yeah, because they didn't come off of there.
Yeah. And I describe in one, I believe in Remembering the Magic, of them. They were moving when I was up there, and I almost got knocked off the ladder. Took your life into your own hands. You had to be careful. The animatronic figure, if you were near it and it moved, you were going to move whichever way it pushed you because you couldn't stop. It was hydraulics and compressed air. Mostly hydraulics back then.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Compressed air is almost all of it now, which is great because it's cleaner and we would get hydraulic. Yeah, we'd get hydraulic oil leaks, and one of the Bears that I talk about in one story, actually, we got a call in the middle of the day to come up to the Country Bear right away because they had closed it down because the bear was singing a song about crying, and that was it was. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't a bear.
I'm going to tell you, get it right. Oh, yes, it was Terrence.
Terrence.
Well, he's cried all right. Big blast of oil shot out into the audience out of his eyeball. And
It
so,
was all over the carpet and everything, and they couldn't figure out why nobody that had been in the audience ever came and said, "I want you to have my clothes
well,
cleaned."
they did
because-
take care of the people, but they had
Yeah.
oil all. It was about first few rows anyway. And so, yeah, carpet people had to rub. They were closed until the next day.
So anyway,
Yes.
any other comments, questions?
Let's see on the comments. Christine says, I still think you need to make a book out of your paintings.
Oh God.
Oh dear.
Oh, that's oh.
You know what? You know that would be. Yeah. The only thing I see the problem there is, and I do get this. I'll have people come out and say, "I want to buy that painting" when they see one I posted, and I went, "Well, that's a commission piece." The reason I like to work commission only is that I personalize these paintings. I'm getting ready to. I'm doing a smaller painting right now, and I'm starting a big painting this next week too. That is another one of Main Street at night with the fireworks and everything like the one I've already done for the Thorntons.
But
It's
it's
going to be on the
different.
cover of the book, but the fireworks display will be different. People in the crowd will be different. So it's special just
He's like
to
Walt.
that
He doesn't like to
family.
repeat anything.
So yeah, it makes it very special. And that actually, when I finish that painting will be shipped to Orlando because the family who is commissioned it are from England. And we figured out it was going to be, of course, super expensive to send it to England, even if I take it off of the stretcher frames and roll it up. But they have a summer, well, not a summer, they have a vacation place in Orlando because they go to Disney World at least twice a year. So they're going to be at Disney World, and I'm shipping the painting there, and then they're going to take it with them back to England. Now I do have a commissioned painting that's a few months away yet that goes to Paris, and I have
Hong Kong.
3 of them that are going to the same person in Hong Kong. So, and I don't even know what those paintings are.
And just so you know, if you've
he's
never
commissioned
commissioned
me.
RJ to do a painting, the shipping costs are yours, not his. So I said to him, I said, does this man know what it's going to cost him to get this painting to Hong Kong?
But yeah, to put a book together, I'll give it some thought. Maybe it's a process doing all this.
It's much more. The first 2 books we did were before he had his social media sites, before he was getting as many commissions does now, and it became a timing nightmare trying to figure out when we were going to do this. And it, even though it went through several different revisions before we hit on what we wanted to do, it was also just really difficult for both of us because I'm busy with other projects. I'm getting ready with my son to direct another play, and we're going to do another one in the spring. And I said, oh, thank God the book is done because I don't have to do 2 things at once. And
I got to tell you a funny thing. I posted a picture. Well, I just posted the picture of the painting I just finished with the Haunted Mansion and the Carousel of Progress and the
People Movers and
the Figment and the Hitchhiking Ghosts. And it was fun to paint, but that's the kind of stuff I like to come up with for people. It makes it unique. But I think that was the one I posted a couple of weeks ago when I was working on it or something, and it was the show. We actually did the show, and then I realized when it posted that it had a thing on there that said "sell it," and so people could offer to buy it. And I went, no, you can't buy this. And of course, I'm so good at the computers.
yeah, right.
It took me about 15 or 20 minutes to figure out how to get that off of there. No, that's not for sale. Because then I had people contacting me saying, I'd like to buy the painting. I said, well, you can't.
I will tell you this. If he does a book, it's his book. Because I told him when we were toasting the fact that we had sent this one off to the publisher, we were done. I said, please promise me I'm not going to write any more books.
And then we got drunk. No, we didn't.
We did not.
We did toast. One
anyway. Well,
Okay.
we're coming to the end
look,
of our
yes.
hour here.
Is there any other questions or comments real quick before we?
There's some comments. If Gail is saying their Epcot is going massive changes, which it is.
Big,
Yes,
yeah.
we know that.
Which is
And
great.
It is. Christine says, I so enjoy listening to your stories.
Oh.
And she also
Thank
adds
you.
that I want more paintings too. And if I ordered everything that I've envisioned, I'd be ordering 3,500 paintings.
Well, then I could retire after I was done with your work, which would be
You're never
a
going to
number of years
retire.
from now.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
let's
retire.
Christine after the show. She wants 3,500 paintings.
Wow.
Good heavens.
Okay.
I know he said he wanted to live another 40 years, but I don't know if he could. No, that's
I'm never going to retire. You don't have to worry about that. I totally enjoy painting and doing this. And it's so much fun, Romina, having you as my producer and our moderator. I hope you all can hear her. We're still trying to figure out how we can do this on Facebook so you can see Romina's picture also, instead of her being on the phone here beside the laptop. But it's because I'm so good at computers.
no, but
But-
your grandson who
but-
just got a degree in
but-
it said, I don't think you can do that on
But
Facebook.
Romina, if you didn't know, of course, worked at Disney World in 85, 88, and then
88, 89.
88, 89, and again in 2015. Am I right?
2016.
Close.
Yeah.
Jeez, picky.
Always was. But
But
I got a comment for Suzanne. She was talking about the changes going on, and one of the major things that, especially my husband spent 13 years working for Walt Disney World here, that traditions used to last a week,
yes,
and now it's half a day, and the other half is touring the park. So it's half a day now, traditions.
Oh my God.
Which is really
So it's
breaking
gotten
my
to be
heart.
5
Yeah,
times bigger,
it's-
but it's a shorter. Well, I don't understand.
it takes away
So the culture that they embedded into you on traditions that you learned and loved and cared for.
You were pixie dusted.
is no longer there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're taking away the pixie dust because
Yeah.
yes, it's wonderful, all of you that are new to Disney World and getting the jobs and everything. That's great.
Yes.
Good for you. It's sad that you're
But
not
you don't
getting to
hear.
experience that,
Well,
what they used to have, because now they're rushing you through.
And we have people all
Um,
the time that ask us, wouldn't you like to go back and work there again? And Romina can be one. I see her, she's shaking her head no. I didn't even need to experience it like she did to know that I didn't want to do that, because having been part of the original entertainment group, we have a group, by the way, very private. You can't go on our site. It's just for entertainers who were there from the opening day through 1980. And every 5 years we have a reunion. And we're going to have one in 2021 for the 50th birthday of Walt Disney World.
In Orlando.
In Orlando. It won't be at Disney, but it will be in Orlando. But those people like me, our site is all about what we did. It can be, oh, so-and-so had a birthday, or this is happening, or here's a picture of my dog. But we don't talk politics. We don't compare Disney then to Disney now. We don't do any of that. We post old pictures. Hey, does anybody know who's in this besides me? But it's great fun. But
It's a lot of fun.
you have all those memories, and we're so pleased that our readers have encouraged us to write 3 books when we thought we'd only write 1. And actually, when we started doing this one, we looked at each other and went, do we have enough stuff to do to make another book? But that's when we got the theme idea
Yeah.
for Walt and telling everybody about
So
the beginnings.
yeah,
But anyway, there would be no way I could ever go back there. It would just be too, it had already become impersonal by the time I left in 95.
we had 7,000 employees in the 70s.
And
now
it's almost 90,000.
It's almost 90,000 employees.
Yes.
So it's like any large company. It changes so drastically that you can tend to get lost in it. And
You become a number.
we felt like a big family back then. We
Yeah.
really did. Everybody seemed to know everybody in some capacity. So it was different.
Very different.
It was very different.
And we hope you'll read about it because
Yes.
we had fun writing it. Took a long time, but we enjoyed it.
So yeah, and I did mention about Romina and her husband. They of course had moved to Austin, Texas. When did you move to Austin?
In February.
In February. Well, last week
We're back.
they moved back to Orlando because you said your husband, right now his name just went right out of my head. David
David.
couldn't stand being away from Disney World. So
Correct.
there's that pull. So you are back. And what is I sent her a thing. What was it? Monday? I said, or Sunday? I says, because I knew that you were back by then, right? Sunday or Monday. And I said, how's everything going? And she goes,
Oh, yeah.
and she posts 4 pictures
We're at
from Disney
Disney
World.
World.
No, she goes, what do you think? I went, I hate you. So on that note,
We haven't been there in, what, 2 years?
no,
almost?
we'll
Yeah.
be down there for the.
We'll be down there in 2021.
Yes, for the reunion, which includes people like the original Barbershop Quartet members,
Mhm.
all the people that performed at the Diamond Horseshoe Review. So like Bev Bergeron.
My
there,
choreographer, my
and-
former boss,
Yeah.
a guy who was Donald Duck forever, and I think he's going
Bobby.
to live to be 150 years old.
Yeah,
And-
she's in management now. It should be retiring very soon. But anyway, so we'll be down there for that.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe we'll be able to set up something for something. Who knows? Maybe we can all meet. We'll have it. So everybody show up at the same time. It'll be like 3 people. Oh, okay, right.
Well, Romina will be there.
Romina will, and David will be there. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for
Yes,
joining
thank
us.
you, and thanks for letting me be part of this because it was fun.
And Romina, I'm glad you're all back, and you and David are back in Orlando.
She's
and
got her
enjoying
pictures
yourself.
up on the wall, see?
Yes, got Mickey Mouse up behind her on the wall there. So, okay.
Have a great 4th of July, people.
Yes, happy 4th. It has been absolutely wonderful, and we'll see you next week, provided Facebook doesn't go anywhere.